Hello, everybody. My name is Kazembe Abena, and this is Cultivating Intimacy. Welcome. I am also known as the Heart Whisperer, and I am happy to be back. It's been a couple weeks here. Just had a birthday and whatnot, and there's been some interesting things going on here in Atlanta, storms and whatnot, and of course, a lot of things going on worldwide in terms of natural disasters and catastrophes. But we're lifting everyone up in prayer, particularly Puerto Rico and those islands in the Caribbean as well, sending them love and light. Hey, Maisha, thanks for joining up. Thanks for joining up, Maisha. So tonight, we're going to talk about a potentially engaging and enlightening subject here that is called, would you date a person who is bisexual? Why or why not? I'm going to open this up to questions and comments in a moment, but first I'm going to kind of go through some things that I discovered today and some things that I had discovered a while ago in reading some books in terms of the different perspectives. Thank you, Maisha. In terms of the different perspectives on what it means to be part of the LGBTQ community in an indigenous place, in an indigenous society. And I think that, at least for me, it was very eye-opening. Very eye-opening. Hey, Brian, how are you? Hey, Miriam, how are you? I'm going to see if I can invite some more folks here as well. Let's see here. I'm just going to go through and invite some folks. Stick with me, y'all. So I'm going to pull from a source, a book called The Spirit of Intimacy by Sobonfu Somé. Sobonfu Somé is a former wife of Malidoma Patrice Somé, and they are both of the Burkina Faso people, the Dagar tribe of Burkina Faso. I'm sorry, the Dagar nation of Burkina Faso in West Africa. Malidoma Patrice Somé is an incredibly powerful shaman, and also he's quite lettered and credentialed. I believe he has 2 master's degrees, a PhD. So he has been trained formally in European institutions for those of us that need that validation. So he speaks all over the world, and he's written several books. And his wife has a little book that is really impactful, and I love it. It's got a particular section that she entitles homosexuals and the gatekeepers, that they call the gatekeepers. But here's the book. Here's what the book looks like. Very small, 100 and some odd pages. And The Spirit of Intimacy. Boom. Sobonfu Somé. So I'm gonna be drawing from this today, as well as some other places, but just gonna wait for people kind of to show up here and continue to show up, and then we're gonna go forward. And I'm not gonna wait too long. I'm not gonna wait too long. But I really want to. All right, we got some folks. Hey, Karen. Hey, Ty. What's up, Jenny? Hey. I'm hoping that tonight will dispel some myths. I think there are some myths regarding the LGBT community and in its relationship to Native American, but particularly indigenous African cultures. I think we're holding on to some things that just simply aren't true. Jada, how are you? All right. Wonderful, wonderful. I'm glad we got some good people joining today. A lot of folks. Fantastic. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get on into this. So again, tonight's topic is, and again, my name is Kazembe Abena, also known as the Heart Whisperer. I'm a channeler. I also am a tantra professional and an intimacy coach, and also a dom. I do dom work as well. So I want to explore the topic tonight. Would you date a person who is bisexual? Why or why not? I'm going to open up the floor for questions and comments in a moment, but first I want to offer a couple things here. And again, I want to refer to this book here, The Spirit of Intimacy. The Spirit of Intimacy by Sobonfu Somé, who was a former wife of shaman and PhD Malidoma Patrice Somé. And she really has a fantastic book here. And I want to really go on ahead into it. She has a chapter. The chapter is Homosexuality, the Gatekeepers. So it's chapter 13, page 132. I can get up there. There we go. Homosexuality, the Gatekeepers. All right, so I'm going to pull from that. I'm just going to read something real quick. So what she says here, and it's just a quick paragraph. The life of gay people in the West is in many ways a reaction to pressure from a society that rejects them. This is partly because a culture that has forgotten so much about itself will displace certain groups of people, such as the gay community, from their roles. In the village, meaning their indigenous villages, they are not seen as the other. They are not forced to create a separate community in order to survive. People do not put a negative label on them. They are regarded no differently than any other child of the village. They are born gatekeepers with specific purposes and are encouraged to fulfill the role they're born to in the interests of the community. I think that is a very revealing and enlightening perspective. Mr. James, sir, Mr. Karras, Miss Karras, how are you? Danielle, hey. Asia, hey there. All right. Tracy, we got some folks joining up. Thank you so much for joining, everybody. So I think this really it says a whole lot of things. Number one, the thing that I always like to point out when people have issues, and you know, I thought that maybe I could talk about this subject tonight initially by not kind of having putting my perspective out there, but I don't think it's possible. So, and I still want to say that I want it to be open to people responding, and as long as it's responding in a respectful way, no derogatory terms, etc. But let's allow people to express themselves in the way that they see fit. Darwin, how you doing, my brother? Hey. So when we talk about people, in those individuals, our brothers and sisters who are part of the LGBTQ community, my question always is, well, you know, just because you don't express yourself in that way, or you are not that way, what are we to do with these people? You know, what do you think? Where are they supposed to go? And do we just discount all that they do simply because of their sexual orientation, which is an integral part of who they are? Not to say that doesn't mean anything, it does. But as far as we're concerned, those of us that may express ourselves differently, what does it mean? And particularly when you look at people like James Baldwin, Alice Walker, a host of people in history, you know, are we just to discard these people because they are part of the LGBTQ community? What are we supposed to do with that, you know? And the answer, I believe, is part of what I just read, is that we need to stop looking at them as the other. We are all in this together. We're all expressing ourselves in various ways. And I think that particularly in African communities, we love to say this. I hear this all the time. Oh, you know, Europeans, they brought over homosexuality to Africa. That is just, in my opinion, and what I have read and what I have heard, that is absolute nonsense. And I think that I just, Sobonfu Somé is African. She comes from the Dagara Nation in Burkina Faso. So this is authentic proof of how an indigenous culture in Burkina Faso, in Africa right now, their perspective on those brothers and sisters, meaning human beings, who express themselves in a very myriad of ways sexually and sensually. And the answer is that they are considered gatekeepers and that they have a place. They have a place like anybody else. And there is no difference. There is no difference in terms of their value to the community and to the village. Just real quick, what she means by gatekeepers is that, Vashan, hey there, buddy, is that those people who are part of the LGBT community are, within them, they house the ability to what they consider to be able to straddle both worlds, the physical and the spiritual, because they're able to access both sides of themselves, the masculine and the feminine, so to speak. So they actually take part and are very critical to certain types of ceremonies, rituals, etc. And they literally oversee the gates, elemental gates and other sorts of gates to other dimensions, etc. in the village. So these people are typically, they're shamans, they're medicine men, medicine women, they're priests, priestesses. They do a lot of this sort of work. So they're integral because their energies are a little bit different than the norm. So they have a special place, and typically they're held in high regard. I also, to support that, I put a link here as well to a great site called Indian Country Media Network. And it is an article entitled Two Spirits, One Heart, Five Genders. This is Indigenous Native American. And here they are talking about a very similar thing about how people who come in with this sort of energy are highly regarded and have a place in society, in the village and in the culture. Also, what they say is that contrary to what the colonizers did, and in Native American, in some of the, I think in particular Lakota, the Lakota Nation, they use the term two-spirit. They use the term two-spirit. Now here's the catch. Term two-spirit doesn't necessarily mean lesbian or gay or bisexual, but it means you come in with the ability to float between the two, okay? However that manifests doesn't really matter, because also in Native American cultures, and also Sabon Fusome knows this as well, is that there's not really any concern about how you express yourself sexually. There's not any moral attachment connected to that. That doesn't define you, whether you are good or bad. What defines you in terms of anything morally, if you want to go there, is your contribution to the village, to the community, and your character. That's what defines you, not just your sexuality. And there are many counts, particularly that we've read in the Native American histories and pantheons, that colonizers, when they came through, they didn't understand this, because understand, there was really no separation between the secular and the sacred in a lot of these indigenous cultures. So in other words, there was a spiritual component to everything that you saw. Hence, if you come in as a bisexual or lesbian or gay person, there's automatically seen a spiritual counterpart, not counterpart, but a spiritual component to that. I.e., oh, this is, okay, you're coming in as this. All right, your child is coming in as this. Okay, great. This is how they're going to serve the community. That's really important, because it's saying that everyone has a place, and everyone's place is ordained. It is given. So I think that's something really important to keep with us when we are encountering folks that express themselves differently than we do in whatever fashion. Kara said something here. I read something recently regarding traditional Native American cultures holding the same views. Exactly. Exactly. Thank you for joining, Jocelyn. Thank you for joining, Stacy. So I think that's really important to keep in mind. Really, really important to keep in mind. And I hear a lot of talk, as I said earlier, about what Europeans did. They brought homosexuality over to indigenous cultures, whether it be Africa, Native America, wherever it is. I'm going to have to actually quote Dr. Zuleika Clark on this. I love what she said. I was talking to her one day. She said, no, she said what they did is they actually brought over homophobia. And I think that is a very important distinction, critical distinction, because there was a lack of understanding of the colonizers facing the fluidity and the acceptance of spirit in a person's expression. With most of the colonizers, they were not used to that. So they said, okay, we're going to slam the Bible over your head. We're going to try and put you in our fearful, hypocritical box and make you conform to our standards because we don't understand what you're doing. Just as the article will state that I have actually copied here in the notes to this live broadcast tonight, and also in this book here, The Spirit of Intimacy, there was no issue in terms of someone being gay, straight, bisexual. There was no issue. There was no issue in these indigenous cultures until someone from the outside came in and didn't understand it and decided to say, okay, there needs to be some sort of hierarchy. There needs to be some sort of segregation here. Then it became an issue. But for those that were born and raised in that village, in that indigenous village, in that indigenous environment, there was not an issue. And that is something that we really need to understand, is that there are cultures out there, there are many indigenous cultures out there that understood the fluidity and the sacredness of human sexual expression. It was always there. It doesn't become an issue until you start to label in a demeaning way and then dismiss people and divide them and create hierarchies. Now all of a sudden it's an issue. Let me see, I've got some other comments here. Alicia, hey there. Alicia says, this is amazing. I just read the article and haven't listened in just yet. I've been interested in this for a while now. I love how all of my questions are answered in divine time. All right, that's how it works. All right, thank you for joining us, Alicia. Thank you. And James says there probably wasn't any such titles either. Exactly. Exactly. You come in, you have a certain energy. Indigenous cultures are looking at you, typically. I'm speaking in generalizations here, of course. But by the energy that you're coming in with. What are you coming in with? And what does that energy do? Not judging it. And you are being assessed when you are in your mother's womb, even before that. Such and such couple is going to have a child. That child is going to do this and that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So a space is created for you, and a space is created for you to support you and the energies that you are coming in with, so that you can serve the village to the best of your ability. That's what it's about. Because oftentimes, the health of the village depends on the expression and the health, of course, of the villagers. That's what it's about. So if we have people here and no one is operating in the role that they should be operating in, we're going to have a problem. We're going to have a problem. So a lot of these things were by virtue of necessity. You do this the best, do that. You do that the best, do that. and so on and so forth. So let me go ahead and open it up here. I just would like to hear some things about, I'd like for people to answer. The question tonight is, would you date a person who is bisexual? Why or why not? Why or why not? And if you wouldn't, that's fine. Just say, you wouldn't, and talk and just state why not. It's not everybody's for everybody. I'm a firm believer of that. Not everybody's for everybody. And it has, I'm not for everybody. It often has nothing to do, sometimes it has nothing to do with your sexual proclivities or how you want to express yourself. It is what it is. So I would like to hear and see someone comment on that, because there obviously are huge double standards as well in terms of women who can be bisexual or who can be lesbian, and men. And I've said this on my show before, somehow, some way, if you are a gay male or a bisexual male, you are not as much of a man as a heterosexual male, at least here in the West. And I'll be the first to tell you that, in my opinion, 99.9% of the men walking around today in this society are not nowhere near as much of a man as James Baldwin. In terms of standing up in a time of intense struggle and danger, having the integrity to speak his truth and stand in what he is, having the strength to defend himself and his people, and having the love for his people against all odds. So, and he was obviously outwardly gay. So I don't think we can dismiss that brother and what he did at all. We got another, all right, one comment here. So Maisha says she would not, because unfortunately, since there is so much homophobia, many men are not honest about it, and then it becomes a safety issue. All right, that's a great comment. That's a great comment. Thank you so much for that, Maisha. And I often see that. And my, Zena, hey Zena, thank you for joining. And my comment to that is, I understand what you're saying, but here's my response to that. Let's not demonize the victims here. And I know that's not what you're doing, but here's what I mean by that. We here in the West, we do not exist in a culture that honors honesty. It just doesn't. I cannot tell you, and when I have, I've been coaching intimacy and relationships and things like that. Now I have clients that I'm doing work on, and I cannot tell you how many times I've heard, just out in general, where people say, particularly women, I don't want to know. I don't want to know. If you're going to cheat or do whatever, you just better not tell me. I just don't want to know. So it's almost as if you do approach the person, you are honest, you get penalized for that honesty. I've seen it and heard it too many times. Well, that's the sort of society that we live in. So if we're going to talk about people, being honest, and I know you're not demonizing Maisha, thank you. I know you're not. But I will say, I think sometimes people say, well, this person's not honest. Well, my thing is, well, are we creating a space where they can be honest? And I don't see that happening hardly at all, where people are saying, you know what? Listen, I want your truth. I want your truth. Now, true, if I'm asking for your truth, I'm not obligated to go along with it. I'm not obligated, but I want to respect it because it's your truth. It's who you are. I want to respect it. I want to respect it. We need to make sure that we are providing the space for people to be themselves and be honest without ridicule or blame first, before we start talking about folk being honest. First, we've got to do that. We've got to do that. If we don't, we will continue to give people who will hide because no one wants to be criticized, or worse. There are still many, many places in the nation that you cannot say that you are LGBTQ. You know, it could be a dangerous situation for your life. So until we create the spaces for people to be free and be honest, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. All right, Maisha says, right on. That's why the discussion is so important. That's why this discussion is so important. Exactly. That I've been wanting to have this discussion for quite some time. And, you know, listen, if we have a certain understanding about it and we want to grow, that's fine. That's fine. Because again, we are in a society that does not honor people as individuals, certainly does not honor people as being, and the spiritual energy that they bring from being who they are, certainly does not honor that. Does not honor honesty. So all these things. So we're kind of, you know, fighting an uphill battle. We've got some humps to get over. We've got some obstacles to get over before we get to a place where we can fully express and then accept them and ourselves first. Accept ourselves first. You know, why is it that a woman can have these explorations, these sexual explorations in college or afterward or wherever, and she can get married to a man and it's okay? Or, you know, hey, baby, let's bring in another woman here and do a little something, something, you know, a little threesome. Oh, sure, honey, that's great. And it's okay. But turn around and let the man say he wants to do that. And there's a huge, huge issue. All of a sudden, he's no longer a man. Well, he's been paying your bills for 10 years. He's been, you know, upholding the home for 10 years. But all of a sudden, because he wanted to express himself sexually, he's not a man. Something's up. Something's wrong. It's like we need to honor all of who people are. We need to look beyond that. We need to look beyond that. All right, so James says, this assumption that sexual fluidity means one must maintain sexual relations with both sexes at all times is a misnomer. I can't compete with that. Exactly. Thank you for bringing that up, James. So someone comes to you and says, okay, listen, I'm bisexual, but I love you. And you're a man, woman, whatever. I've heard people say, and I remember literally hearing a woman say this, well, I think that bisexual people can't make up their minds. They can't make up their minds. I just thought that was ridiculous. If I'm a man and I'm attracted to women, I think most of them will say, okay, you know what? Actually, let me even switch here. If there's a woman and she's attracted to a man, I think, and she gets married to that man, I think that most people would say, okay, she's attracted to the man and they've agreed to be monogamous. We know we can have some pretty, you know, for the most part, there's a 50% divorce rate, but we can have confidence that she's going to at least try and do a pretty good job. There's a 50-50 chance she's going to stay with that man and not be with anyone else. In other words, just because you can date, just because you have the capacity to be with more than one person doesn't mean that you're going to do that. It is a decision. So just because a person is bisexual and can be with both a man and a woman, if they come to you and say, I love you, I want to be with you, I want to spend my time with you, then that's what it is. They're making a decision. And that decision is strong because it's out of love and it's out of a commitment to you and themselves. So I'm glad you brought that up, James, because it doesn't mean that just because someone is bisexual that they're just willy-nilly all over the place, any more than it means that if someone is heterosexual that they're married but they just can't keep their hands off of every man that they see if they're a woman, or if they're a man they just can't keep their hands off of every woman that they see. It doesn't mean that at all. Not at all. I think we have a lot of myths about about sexuality that just when you think about it, it's all fear-based And I also want to say that we really need to be careful adopting these myths because it's about control. We're being controlled, y'all. We're really being controlled. And we really need to understand that. And if someone is controlling you in your bedroom, in your bed, then they are controlling your life in a deep and profound and disturbing way that you have yet to realize. The fear and the shame and the guilt attached to our sexuality is just, it is so draining. It stops the flow of money. It stops our self-expression. It stops abundance. It stops love. It stops connectedness. It stops intimacy, both sexual and non-sexual. It's horrible. It stops our spiritual growth and evolution in tremendous ways. So I really, really, really wanted to talk about this because we really need to allow ourselves to be freer. We really need to allow ourselves to be freer, particularly in the African American community, and particularly with those of us that practice indigenous African spiritual sciences. We have some misconceptions that are just simply not true. There's no other way to say it. There's no other way to say it. And that's why I picked up this book first and present this to you guys tonight. The Spirit of Intimacy, Sabonfu Some, from the Dagara Nation in Burkina Faso. Maisha says, LOL, I've never understood this idea that homosexuals are more promiscuous than heterosexual people are. Laughing my ass off. Yeah, absolutely. Again, you know, some more myths that are tossed out just to make folks scared of folk, and it just really holds no weight. It really holds no weight. It really does. And there's something else that I want to address that I've heard a lot of spiritual folks say, and I've actually read this in some Taoist books, etc. Oh, well, you know, the energy between two men is just not compatible, but it's okay with two women. I think that's problematic as well, because again, we're not looking at the individual energy matrix that the person is bringing in, whether they're male or female. We're not really regarding that. Michael, thank you for joining. Kivon, thank you for joining, my friend. We're not regarding that. We're not regarding that at all. And I think there are energetics on so many levels that need to be considered. There's your planetary. There's your elemental. There are so many. There are so many. And to assume that automatically, if a man that comes with another man, that they can't complement each other just because they're men, is not looking deep into them as energetic beings first. That's not taking that into consideration at all. I've heard people say that, you know, same sex, same gender couples cannot manifest. That's nonsense. I've seen that all day long in plenty of couples. So again, we have, you know, even in the spirit, even in the quote unquote enlightened spiritual communities, we have just adopted a lot of falsehoods that just simply don't apply. And I really want us to push past that and look at the truth, look to the truth of the individual and ourselves. And I also want to really stress getting around people that you know will accept you no matter what, that will accept you no matter what. And again, I say this from experience in my practice. I have encountered so many people, 90% of the people that come to me, 90% of my clients are there and dealing with some sort of rejection and not being accepted for who they are. And it can be sexually, it can be career, it can a host of areas. But the bottom line is a lack of acceptance. The bottom line is a lack of acceptance. And I think there are so many of us that are living in boxes, some of them self-imposed. There are many instances where we believe by our conditioning that, and I've gone through it myself and I get it, we believe from our conditioning that we should be ashamed of this or ashamed of that. And at the end of the day, no one's ashamed of it but ourselves. It's not really a big deal. And again, with the things that I shared this evening with the Lakota people and the Dagara people of Burkina Faso, it's a non-issue. It's a non-issue. Sexuality has no bearing whatsoever on your morality, none. And there are plenty of accounts to suggest that colonizers brought that mindset. So as African as folk claim that they are, in terms of, you know, I'm meditating with Tahuti every day, and I'm following the 42 principles of Ma'at, etc. When you start talking about homophobia, and you reflect, when you start to reflect the principles of homophobia, you are reflecting the principles of colonization, my friend. You are reflecting the principles of colonization, of separation, of otherness, of lack of acceptance, of a lack of understanding of the spirituality and the energetic body of individuals. That's what you're reflecting. You're not more African because you are rejecting a member of the LGBTQ community. No, you're just the opposite. You are a colonizer. Why do I say that? Because that's the mentality that the colonizers came into indigenous societies with. That's exactly what they brought. So congratulations to you if you forward that agenda, because that's exactly what you're doing. To say that you're doing something else, you're fooling yourself. You're lying to yourself. So for further, Kevon says here, deep, 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 thanks for spreading the love and enlightenment, brother. Thank you, Kevon. I appreciate that, brother. So what I want to close out with again is I want to urge you to get this book, The Spirit of Intimacy, Sabon Fusome. There we go. And again, she is of the Dagara people of Burkina Faso, West Africa. Also, check out Two Spirits. The Two Spirit personality and embodiment in Native American cultures, particularly the Lakota. Zanetta, hey there. I've got some other comments here. James says, proposing everything in the universe must be balanced. Excellent. Let me put on my glasses. Let me put on my eyes, y'all. I'm sorry. Let me put on my eyes real quick. Excuse me. All right, there we go. Proposing, James says, everything in the universe must be balanced. Feminine and masculine energy. The balance may manifest and expressed in many ways within an individual. Example, a man, all masculine, reaches for a woman, all femme, to balance him. Then consider all the gray shades in between. Exactly. Excellent. Miriam says, great book. Yes, it is. Shayla, thank you for joining. All right. My man Darwin says he started reading it last week. Fantastic. Shayla says she loves the book Spirit of Intimacy and loves Sabon Fu's work. Yes, she's fantastic. I actually was honored enough to go to one of Sabon Fu's workshops. This was back in the 90s. Yeah, wow. That time she was actually divorced from Malodoma Patrice Somé back then either, as well already. So I think that's a very, very good point. I think it would really help us if we looked at things in terms of experiences and expressions. Let's not label it good or bad, right or wrong. But it is an experience. And I heard someone at one point, this was probably about 20 years ago, say that they believe that God created all of us, everything in the universe, so that it can know itself. And I love that. I think that's a beautiful, beautiful statement, because it pulls us away from the dichotomy of right and wrong, which can really get us tripped up. It's what has us tripped up now. Edward says, I saw you hold up that book, The Spirit of Intimacy. Who again is it by? It is by Sabonfu Somé. Sabonfu Somé. All right. Sabonfu Somé. This, you're welcome, Edward. This thing that James brought up, I don't want to get too deep into it tonight. No, I'm already over time, but let me say this. This idea of balance is a really deep issue that you can apply to every aspect of life, and it can really pull you out of right and wrong. And depending upon how married you are to the right and wrong, to the black and white dichotomy, it can maybe even be a little scary, because you end up having to release a lot of preconceived notions and ideas of things, and you end up saying, you know what, man, I'm free. And for some people, freedom is a scary thing, because for some people, they have to be told what to do. They have to be told what is right and wrong. For some folks, they'd rather be told than to make the decision themselves. And that's also what is behind, that is also what the undercurrent is of a lot of this fear as well. You know, I don't accept myself, so I need someone to tell me whether I should accept myself or not, because I really don't want that responsibility. I'm not sure if I can handle that responsibility, because then my life is on me. It's on me. I'm responsible in terms of what I do. I'm responsible. So I'd rather have somebody just tell me what to do. Then I can blame it on the man, or I can blame it on this and that. I can blame it on institutions, etc. You know, but I think we're entering a space, an age, where it is about being free, and it is about being authentic, and it is about expressing your true self on all levels: spiritual, mental, physical, and energetic. So I really want to encourage everyone to do that. And at the core of this, at the foundation of all of this, it is about love. When I was doing research on this, looking at two spirits in the Native American communities and cultures, looking at the gatekeepers, what I kept hearing, the theme was acceptance and love. The theme was, you have a place. There is no separation. You are birthed from God, just as all of us are. We all have a place together, and we're all in this together, and in various expressions of the divine. So I think it's time that we truly come to a place where we truly accept this amongst ourselves first, and then each other. All right, God bless each and every one of you. Thank you so much for joining. Again, my name is Kazembe Abena, also known as the Heart Whisperer Intimacy Coach. And I thank you for participating tonight. I have, for anyone who's interested, last minute, it's got to be in tomorrow, I have a Nuyusui Reiki class, certification class, coming up this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. both days. You will be a Reiki master at the end of it. What that means is that you will have received the master attunement, which is Daikumyo, which allows you to attune the Reiki energy to people and objects. So it doesn't mean you master the craft. It means that you have the master symbol. So that's why people are called Reiki masters after just a weekend, just to let everyone know. That's why you have to, you are given the term Reiki master, given the title Reiki master. So I'm having that. I'm doing a special for $3.99. It was originally $5.99. I'm doing a special for $3.99. Look on my page, hit me up in the message. If you are interested, you will be certified. I'll give you a certificate at the end, and I'll show you how to heal distance, remotely, on yourself, others, etc. And I show you how to actually do a healing in a chair or on a table. And I also provide 3 other attunements as well. So again, Look me up on my page right here at Kazembe Abena and reach out to me, send me a message. Payments need to be in tomorrow. So let me know. Let me know and we'll get you straight. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Peace and love to you, and we'll see you next week. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you so much for your participation and comments to everybody. Spread the word and share the video. Thank you all. Much love.